The struggle is real, Adam.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a story, either your salad days or something that you had to deal with real struggle in business?
My very first business, it was very easy to come up with that one. There's been little examples of that along the way. I think any business person has those times where they have to lean it out.
Okay.
My biggest example is my very first company. So it was 2005. I'd just gotten out of college, and my brother and I moved to the Hudson Valley in New York.
Okay.
I was working for Alliance Bernstein, is a financial analyst down in the financial sector in New York. He was working at a company selling healthcare software.
Okay.
We came up with this motorcycle lock on a bar napkin. We were we were drinking at a bar once heavily, and we watched a guy wreck his bike. Anyway, we ended up writing this business plan, the makings of a business plan, some provisional patents. We came up with some designs. We did everything you do when you're starting out a company. We didn't really know fully what we were doing because we were young, 20, 21. Um, as we started poking around, we into raising capital, we got a hold of the Hudson Valley Business Accelerator. Actually, we got a hold of T-Van, which was a business accelerator based out of Syracuse, New York, or Albany,
Oh,
one of the two.
Syracuse. I remember Carousel Mall.
Yeah, Carousel Center with the merry-go-round in it.
Yep.
So the first time we had a meeting with some potential investors, we jumped the gun, and we had one of our first meetings. We thought we were going to get some money from a group out of Florida, but was involved with this with some people we met.
Okay.
So we quit our jobs before funding,
Before you received the money.
before we received the money.
All
And a lot
right.
of it had to do with things like knowing that I've always looked at businesses and started engaging as if the company was already fully successful and running.
Because you were so committed, invested. I get it.
It's how I manifest this stuff to move forward.
But what did they say to you that gave you the confidence to quit?
We were really green. When I say we, I'm talking about myself and my brother.
Right.
There was a and now this was not the T-Van Accelerator Group. This wasn't an angel group out in New York. This was another one that we met with. There was a fee for due diligence, and we paid it.
Oh, that is green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And they were out of Fort Lauderdale. And we felt that the investment on our end was a guarantee for the funds on the back end.
Oh,
Right. So
gotcha.
when when we started working for this, it was a small raise, 200,000. Small. Not for a 20-year-old. That was a lot of
Well,
money.
what was the time? What year was this?
2005.
2005? So 200, yeah, I mean, that's a lot
For two
now.
guys out of college drinking Keystone Light out of a can with a rubber lining.
Hey, man, so when you think about Y Combinator today,
Yeah.
and the way startups happen with kids still in college or young people still in college, it's different landscape.
When when that when we started the process of bringing the money, I quit first.
Okay.
I put in my notice at my job, and it was hard because I was paid my first job. It was paid really well for someone out of college.
Yeah.
I even had a clothing allowance, and I still have ties I bought from that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I do
I
like
bought
my
my fir-
ties.
I bought my first Jag with my clothing part of my clothing allowance.
There you go.
Yeah, I bet my Jaguar days started then.
Good problems.
When my when I quit, when I left my division down there, my brother didn't quit right away, and it was just two of us living in an apartment in a little town called New Hampton. In this apartment at the time was a lot for two guys right out of college. I think it was 800 or 1,000 a month. Maybe it was
Okay.
1,200 a month. And so he had his job, but his job was commission based.
Okay.
And we ended up for a very short amount of time. I actually got a job working at his company because he convinced his boss to hire me.
Okay.
And
To do
it,
sales?
Actually, it was to help her with finance.
Okay.
That's how I learned QuickBooks, was working for her.
Okay.
His boss, she started this her company was medical software, so anyway, when she found out that we had this LLC and we were trying to raise money, the cat was out of the bag, gig was up, we were fired on the spot. And when we went home to get, we rode in together. When we went home, it was never a situation of pick up the phone and call dad. It just wasn't like that's just not how we were raised, and I don't think it even crossed our mind to do that. It was not it was not our there was nobody to call and ask for money. It was, "Let's figure this out."
Yeah.
So, that started you call them the salad days, I call them the ramen noodle days,
Yeah.
because ramen noodles were 23 cents a package, and you could get a lot of ramen with a ton of sodium in
It's
there.
true.
So, you could buy the big box, I think, for $6.
Oh, yeah, we used to call them skillet creations because 'cause we'd come up with our own concoctions. We weren't just limited to the packet.
Yeah, our go-to was the beef flavor and the chicken flavor. They had that weird vegetable one, but nobody in the brown bag.
I remember if you add eggs to it, it was
Eggs are a
awesome.
luxury. We didn't have eggs.
Oh, yeah.
And so we lived on the little bit we were able to put aside, but I just had a Jag. I just bought a Jag and we had this apartment. And
Okay.
what happened was we stopped paying our rent and we lived on the second floor of a duplex, and the owner of the duplex lived below us with his family. And we started to justify not paying the rent because his kids were so loud and we complained all the time. So 2 or 3 months in and we weren't paying rent, it got a little bit dicey with him because you had to go through one entrance of the house. You had to go through the main door and then take the stairs up to our apartment. And when you opened that door, you looked right down the hallway into his house. So anytime we were coming or going, we saw the guy.
That's very cinematic, and the reason why I laughed when you said that is because it's the stories we tell ourselves, right? To justify things
Yeah, I was
sometimes.
like, Eric, my brother, I said, Eric, this guy's kids suck. If we don't pay rent, let's just tell them it's too loud. The first few months, we were kids, so we don't really have an ego about money, but you never like telling people you can't pay rent because you're broke.
Yeah,
And we both went to very good schools, very expensive schools, and we we fancied ourselves able guys.
and you're still driving the Jag.
I'm still a Jag guy. That specific Jag, my brother drove into the ground. I think he put 190,000 miles on that thing.
But, I mean, you weren't paying your rent, but you had the Jag.
Oh, yeah, then? Oh, absolutely.
Oh my
And that
god.
became a topic of of discussion with the landlord.
Okay.
So, because we shared the driveway.
Oh, jeez.
So, when this went on for 3 months, and I remember the lowest point. I still remember it. There was a grocery chain in New York called Hannaford.
Okay.
It was something like, Vons, just a general, grocery store. We went to our local Hannaford to buy some food, and I kind of knew we were in some dire straits, and we were walking down the aisle with our basket of ramen and some other things, staples to get through, and we were standing in line at the register. I said, "Hey, Eric, I need to go check our bank account and just double check. Not our bank. We didn't share a
Yeah, yeah.
bank account, but I'll check the one that has money."
Yeah, yeah.
And it was negative 200 or 300 bucks.
Okay.
And I just said to him, "Put down the basket. We have to leave." And I remember like yesterday, him setting the basket on the floor and us walking out the door. And it breaks my heart, not because of me, because of him. I don't know how to explain it. I just remember the way he looked because I always felt like I had to. I was the money guy in the business,
Oh,
and
okay.
we didn't have it. And we walked out that door. So that was a that was a Wednesday afternoon, and we had a meeting the following Wednesday with another investor group.
Okay.
We pitched this investor group a couple weeks prior to this end of our finances. Um, the Hudson Valley Development Corporation, great
Okay.
great group of angel investors in the Hudson Valley in New York, based out of Goshen. If you ever saw the 9/11 movie with the Goshen fire, there's that town. And in this group of investors was a guy named John Galani, who he was the main investor of the group. You could tell he was like the alpha investor. He was very successful. He had a telecom company, ran fiber optics to New York City. Anyway, he was the guy that he would lead the investment and others would follow. And he liked our pitch. He liked our story. He liked the cut of our jib, as you'd say.
The cut of our jib.
Yeah, collective jibs.
Okay.
So we had a meeting with him set, and it was, I want to say it was a week after we ran out of money. And it's because he liked our presentation. He liked our business and what we were trying to do, and he knew that we needed the money yesterday. So we're out of food. At this point, our landlord shut off our heat, and it was February, so that wasn't okay. And in upstate New York, we ended up living on, I think a friend of ours up the road made us this giant tray of beans and rice, and we lived on that for 4 days.
Okay.
This huge foil tray of beans and rice, and the little bit of ramen we had.
Yeah.
The day that we met with with John Glennie, I remember the morning of the meeting. We both got up, we got our suits on, and John called me and said, "Let's meet where all big business is done. We're going to meet at McDonald's." So we went to Montgomery, New York,
Okay.
and to this McDonald's, and John was sitting in a booth, and he gave us our first investment check, and it was the first investment was 100,000, and he was giving us a check for 20,000. I have it at home in a frame. KeyBank. So I don't even know if they're around anymore, but KeyBank
Okay.
handed us this check, and he said, "Here's to start, and then the other guys that come in will make up the 100 for your first investment," which is a whole other story,
Yeah.
how much you give away for that. But anyway, we're out of money. We have this idea. That was amazing. So this was on, I think it was a Wednesday. No, I'm sorry. Our meeting with him was on a Friday.
Okay.
And he gave us the check at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And we left the meeting, and my brother was driving. I said, "We have to go to the bank and get this deposit, but we need some cash." And it was a bank neither of us used. And the first bank we went to was the bank we did our banking with, which was Bank of America. And they wouldn't take it. And I remember Eric was sitting in the car waiting for me, and I walked in, and I was in there for a while. And when I came back out, he said, "Did you get it cash?" I said, "They won't do it." And he was distraught. The two of us were just at the
That
end.
sounds like Bank of America, man.
Well, we ended up making a banking relationship because of this. We ended up opening an account at a bank that doesn't exist anymore. It's called Hudson United,
Okay.
and they were taken over by TD, Toronto Dominion. TD Bank took them over
Okay.
a couple of years later. But anyway, they opened up an account for us and gave us, I want to say, $1,000 of that in cash at 4:45 on a Friday.
Oh, damn.
And I remember walking out of the
Because
bank.
it closes at 5
Yeah.
before I mean,
And
they,
it was going to be another weekend.
yeah.
Eric's sitting in his car, and I'm walking up, and he's just sitting at his steering wheel. And I get in the passenger seat, and I look down, and he goes, "They didn't give you any money." I was like, "No, man." And he goes, "Oh no." And you could tell he was at the edge. I go, "No, what are we going to do with it?" And I just splayed out the money like on some game show, like we
Yeah.
just won. And it was just this sigh of relief. And we went out to dinner, and we both got giant steaks, red wine. We got sick. We ate so much food that night after a bottle or two of wine or whatever our drink. I think we were drinking Jameson at the time, whiskey. We got to the house at 9 o'clock at night, and we start banging on the door, and our landlord comes, and we just start throwing down our old rent that we missed. "Here, take this." And yeah, it was a whole thing. And so my salad story was the span of, it was probably 3 months of that.
Yeah.
I look back on it as it definitely, I always say it's my couch surfing days if I had to do it again. But now that I have a family, that's not, it sends a chill down your spine if you think about having to go back to that.
You're sitting across from somebody who has with a family. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
It sends a chill down your spine.
it's even when I think about it now, I'm kinda like, "How did we make it out of that?" But it's almost like if you commit yourself to just doing it, you
Yeah.
don't know any other way than forward.
You don't know any, and I'm writing a book about this, the invisible hand, not the concept about economics,
Yeah.
but this driving force, how you get the spirit to keep doing it. Because as a 21-year-old, whatever, you know, lie, steal, and cheat. Make get your landlord off your back so you're not sleeping under the stars. But as a guy in his 40s with a wife and kids, mm, I know Elon lives for that kind of stuff, but I don't.
Mine was in my other half of my 30s when it happened to me. So yeah.
It's no good either way, especially now we never had great success before that. So we were just college kids, but having success then going through it, I don't know.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my and I still think about it. It's something I don't think about it every day, obviously, because we
No,
don't
but
live in
it's
the past, but
there.
it's there.
It's there.
It's enough of a story that it's ending up in my as a chapter in my book.
Yeah, it deserves one.
Yeah, and I think anybody who's started their own business or really made a major change in life can probably either relate to it, not if not directly, but components, parts of it. But it does kind of make you feel like you're not alone in that. Like, oh, they went through that.
It's part of the reason why I read Shoe Dog every year, or I listen to it in Audible every year, is because there's certain parts of that story from Phil Knight that are very relatable, and it's almost comforting at this point in time. It's almost being read like a business lullaby at certain points of it.
That's
So it
actually a
makes
good point.
sense.
Is where the comfort comes from, and I I think when I think back to when
You're fine. You can drink water during this.
when I think back to what it was,
Yeah,
a lot of my comfort came from the fact that my twin was there doing it. I
I'm sure
saw
that
someone
helped.
who looked like me doing it, and I was like, "Well, I don't feel sorry for myself. I
That's
feel sorry for
interesting.
him." Well, that's
That's a
actually
unique experience.
the whole thing where it's also like this, the sound of my voice. I know what I sound like. We
Yeah,
had the exact same voice. When he would say things to me, I say, "Ooh, I don't wanna say it that way." Or I like how he said that. But yeah, that's the story of leaving the basket in Hannaford was you pe I've never felt sorry for myself. I don't do the victim thing, but seeing me doing it,
yeah,
it's a very conflicting, strange feeling because I felt bad for him who looked like me doing it. So
yeah,
I would project my self-pity on someone who looked like me, which was self-pity in another weird kind of way.
yeah.
Always, everything.
That's so.
If someone if either of us had an issue in high school, uh, we weren't really picked on, but he did go through a point where he made some enemies,
Mhm.
and I'd see them interact with him, and if he was walking down the hall and they looked at him a funny way, and I saw them looking at him, I remember feeling this incredible sense of just sorrow. It was very strange. Like
That
if
is
someone was
strange.
looking at me like that, I would,
That's very unique, very unique. I mean, if anybody's listening who has a twin, I'm sure
yeah.
it's more relatable for them, which is awesome
Well, and
because there's a lot of twins.
we look the same, we
Yeah,
sound the same, we have the same our brain works the same way. So it's not like twins where we're vastly different. The differences would be things like personality differences, but looks sound I could pick up the if he picked up the phone and called my wife after she'd been with me for 8 years, she couldn't. If I told him what to say, she wouldn't know it was him.
that's funny, man.
Yeah.
You know, one part of the story I really liked was when you went back and paid your back rent.
We slammed it on the stairs. Like total egotistical maniacs.
Oh, I thought you were doing it as like a joke in a kind way. Or
No,
no,
and
it
then we
wasn't?
and then we moved out the next week into an apartment.
Oh, okay.
We were like well, because what we worked it up in our heads that you wronged us because your kids are so loud. Here's your rent, goodbye.
I
And
got you now.
and he also did
Okay.
get pretty personal with us about the car, about the Jag. I'm recalling little bits and pieces of argument about that.
Which, I mean, you owe 'em money and you're driving a Jag. It'd be one thing if you were driving a Civic that was held together with zip
But
ties
if
and
you
duct tape.
yeah, but I guess in my head, the justification was it's like it's like trying to understand why someone's acting a certain way. Like if you see a guy in a car and you all of a sudden imagine he's got some amazing life, but you don't know the backstory.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, I just got this car, and if I turn around and sell it, I'm going to lose half. I'm not in a position where I can do anything about it. So that's how I justified it in my head was like, you don't know, I can't even afford to put gas in this thing, man.
no, I get it. The stories we tell
Yeah,
ourselves, man.
yeah. Still doing it to this day.
Well, thanks for sharing
Yeah.
that.
Hopefully it fits into your
It definitely does, man. That's awesome.